Now, without further ado, I've been looking forward to this for a long time. I would like to introduce you to my very good friend for a fireside chat, the COO of Riot Games, Molly Mason-Boule. Oh, should we do the thing?
Oh, we should.
Do the thing.
You know, I'm at Riot now, so.
She's a Riot, that's what we do.
When you walk in anywhere, you're fist bumping. That's sort of what goes on at Riot Games.
Welcome home.
Why, thank you. It's beautiful
home,
to
right?
be back.
Yeah.
This is home. LA is also home.
LA home and Vancouver home.
Yep. I would like to actually point out that Joe is available for some timeshare sales later in the suit. I felt wildly underdressed when I showed up today and saw the dapper Nichols.
Yeah, we talked. I'm really going for the CEO of United Airlines look.
I think he needs the wings. He needs the wings.
Yeah, she suggested I put some wings on so it could really kind of look the part.
But like, how much do we love Joe? Let's just give Joe a quick round.
Oh, thank you. So like I said, Molly and I have known each other for a very long time. In fact, I like to say I knew Molly before she was cool and had a hyphenated name.
That's true.
When she was Molly Mason.
That's right.
But I first met Molly when I was working at EA. And Molly was busy bringing balance to the force because it was kind of in disarray. And guess what you were fixing? Outsourcing, because outsourcing was not really a thing back then. Outsourcing was just ordering a pizza. So.
That's funny.
Well, bigger than that, right? I guess it is the original outsource.
There was no outsourcing when I got to EA, but you know, it was a time where scale was, you know, EA was at a different size back then. I joined in 2004, as you know, and we had to get from Gen 2 to Gen 3, and the scale of that jump was just really massive, particularly for computer graphics.
Right. Right.
So, you know, I can't take all the credit because, to be fair, everything requires a team. We don't do anything alone in life, and certainly not at work. So there was so many thought partners that just kind of led us to understand that what I call geo-diverse teaming was something we needed to do.
Right.
So we went down that road. Yeah. That difficult, fun
road.
Crazy road where we traveled the world and met people whose companies were a card table.
Right.
Quite literally.
And a shower curtain.
Mm-hmm. Quite literally, back then.
But before you came in and fixed everything, you were a person and had a life and did other things, right?
Yeah, I'm old. Yeah, so, for the record.
So tell us about pre-video game days. Like, tell me your story. Where are you from? How'd you get here? Who let you?
Yeah, that's that. We have an hour, yeah? No. So I was at EA for 18 years. There's a lot of familiar faces in this crowd today, so it's nice to see my old EA peeps, and now there's some rioters here, so shout out to the rioters. Big fist bump to all of you. Woo, woo. But prior to games, I was a producer in visual effects and animation for film and television and commercials and music videos, and I worked in advertising in New York at Gray, San Francisco and New York, the kind of technology practice as a broadcast producer. Started my career working in audio. So I worked for a very prolific composer who wrote for film and television. He was generous and wonderful, and I just learned a ton from him. And kind of that's where I fell in love with animation. Prior to that, I did go to art school before I got an MBA, so I kind of have both sides in my brain, but I was a professional photographer for record labels in LA. And that was a fascinating thing to jump out of college into doing. My sister was an executive at Atlantic Records, and she sort of shoved my book in front of a bunch of people. So it was nepotism all the way, go LA. But I did photograph a lot of fascinating people. Like I photographed Courtney Love when she was launching Hole, and just a lot of people. So I still am an artist at heart. Yeah. But yeah, so, you know, during the audio...
Pretty boring life.
Yeah, pretty boring. So
like she really hasn't done much at all.
During the audio days, Nickelodeon would come in. And I really just loved the process of putting sound to animation. And DreamWorks was coming in, DreamWorks Animation at the time, they were called PDI, and they were making a movie called Ants, and then embarking on Shrek. So they would come in, and this producer just said, like, hey, do you want to come work for me? And I said, yes, I do. And then I just jumped into the world of visual effects and animation for about 12 years. Production company side, ad agencies for commercials. It was at DreamWorks doing visual effects for live action, and then feature animation, and yeah, so production was kind of my thing. So the joke about EA is I got recruited at a memorial service of an executive that had been at, true story, at DreamWorks, and he was like, so what are you doing now? And he recruited my husband and then myself, and we came to the magic land called Vancouver and started my journey with EA. It's very hard to get into games from visual effects and animation or film and TV, very difficult transition. I got called Film Girl by the QA folks for like 2 years. I think they were trying to scare me away, but I fell in love with games, so it didn't work. But yeah, so really the computer graphics part of my life is really, I would say, the engine that's really driven the majority of my career. I've never really looked at what's the level or the role or the this or the that. I just am in love with the medium. Yeah.
And so, you come from a very creative background, no question there. So, I'm not going to say it was easier because you didn't come from like accounting and then find your way into something else.
The MBA came later.
Right. I remember when you took that because you were taking it while you were working.
That was insane.
Yeah, that was nuts.
If I knew what I was getting into, but I'm not sure I was. But it's been such an enriching decision that I made to go back to school.
So when you actually physically came in and started doing the games, is it what you thought it was going to be? Were you doing what you thought you were going to do? After getting recruited Fireside at a funeral to start that journey.
True story.
Is it what you thought? Is it, is you doing the things that you thought you were going to do when you got to games?
That's a great question. I knew when I joined Games, I started on game teams. I was hired to take Knockout Kings and make it fight night. That was the first game team that I was on. And when I saw how the art was made, I was perplexed. Because you come from film and TV and the creative really drives. And in gaming, engineering it's a big deal in visual effects and animation, but in a different way. So what the transition looked like for me was becoming much more technically savvy. To understand the process at a deeper level. So I would think that was the hardest part of making the move into gaming. And over time, it was clear that we didn't have some of the technical things we needed to take advantage of the rendering power of the Gen 3 hardware. And then began my sort of central odyssey, Joe.
Right. Right. Well,
Yes.
EA wasn't built in a day, right? So.
Yeah, it was quite an undertaking. Yeah.
And when you think about that journey, I mean, there had to be huge roadblocks and huge resistance. Who is this person? Film Girl is here, and she's going to start doing stuff, and it's like,
Pretty much, yeah.
I've been called worse, but like Film Girl's an okay.
I've been called worse too, but Film Girl was kind of endearing at the same time.
Right. And so you come in there and you're saying, hey, I've got a different way of doing things. You probably ran into some pretty stiff resistance because, well, that's the way we do things here, right?
Yes, for sure. And I think that's true. Change is just a difficult process for humans in general. And then you put a bunch of inertia and success, because let's face it, all the companies you work for and the companies I've worked for and Joe's worked for, we've been lucky to enjoy some success, right? And so what comes with success is sort of a comfort zone that you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And when you're in that space, it's hard to say, maybe we should be jumping over here and doing this other thing. So there was a tremendous amount of resistance.
Yeah, I'll bet.
All the way through, quite frankly. And I think that's just the function of human beings and comfort zones and stretching and taking on things that might not look like what you're used to.
And it's that resistance too, I think, that helps you kind of course correct and go, oh, wait a second, maybe this isn't what I thought I should be doing.
Absolutely.
Right? Because sometimes they say, that's not working, I don't want to do that, and then they talk about why, and it's something you hadn't considered, right?
I think friction is a massive driver. And I was talking to my current boss, who's the founder of, one of the two founders of Riot. His name's Mark Merrill. He's a brilliant guy. I was talking to Mark the other day about, hey, maybe I'm the counterpoint. I found myself in that role quite a bit over the course of my professional life. Maybe it's just I'm curious, I don't know, but I definitely take the counterpoint a lot. And I think it's that friction that drives creative people to outcomes, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So based on the path that you took,
Yeah.
are there things that you could think about that maybe helped in the transition to games, and maybe some stuff that helped that hurt in the transition to games?
Yeah, I'll give one that's like not transferable and unrealistic maybe, but I moved to another country for the job. So there's like a different commitment level.
Right.
When you're on a work visa, you're just kind of like, and here I am in Canada. So, it was like a don't look back moment. I left film and TV and really a life that I knew, and just decided I'm going to commit myself to learning this medium. I loved games, so that didn't hurt, right? The fact that I already enjoyed video games was a plus. But I think that that made it easy, in addition to the generosity of other people. So there was so much generosity when I joined EA. There was resistance, sure, and difficult moments and change, but there was generosity there as well, and some phenomenal mentors that I just really, that were very giving, and so it just made it easier to transition.
Is that,
Yeah.
what was that one of the ways that was make it easier for you to make that decision to move to another country? Because that's a big deal, even though Canada and the US are pretty similar, but that's still a big deal.
Yeah, it was a big deal. I underestimated, there's something about naive optimism, right? I think I underestimated. It's like, it's right above Seattle, how different can it be? Well, number one, they say my name correctly.
Right.
So we're already winning when the accent aigu is recognized,
Right.
and people can kind of pronounce your name. That's always a plus. But I think I had that naive optimism, like, this is going to be an adventure. I'm going to meet new people. I'm going to learn new things. So I just kind of went into it with that mindset,
Right.
quite honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So now I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about
Yeah.
some of the things that you're proud of and things that have happened along the way. Have you ever pulled out a win at the last minute?
We all have we not? I think that's the definition of being in production.
Right. Yeah, change that one line of code. Oh.
Yeah, let's pull out the win at the last minute is kind of the definition of the games business, I think. Sure, of course. I think it's a team effort, of course. And so any kind of production is never a singular effort. It's about the team of people. Pulling out wins at the last minute, I'll tell one fun story.
Sure.
My last employer had a summit that they would do every year. And it was a big affair, and it would be in a different country every time, and Vancouver or Sweden or whatever, they would move it around. And I had an applied research team that was working on something kind of unusual, which is like hardware and software solutions for the creative process to be better, which sounds odd, but it was a super fun group of people. And we had built some facial performance capture stuff and a really phenomenal rig, and we demoed. They wanted us to demo, but it was really last minute ask, and that's pretty technically complex to just pull out of the sky.
Right.
But we did it.
Engineers love last minute.
Yes, of course. But we did it in a hotel room and whipped it out at the event, and it was just magic because you could see the promise of the tech, and you could see the emotional performance of the animation. It was a beautiful moment. So, I mean, that's one that's kind of a micro thing, but obviously I just think every production just has speed bump after speed bump, and when you kind of drag it across the launch line, it's an exciting moment. I've been proud to work on every game I've touched, without any question at all. Yeah, definitely.
What was the hardest thing that you took on that worked out?
Building EA Create was crazy. Like what? Like who would? Why?
So what does EA Create for those?
Yeah. So shout to the Create peeps in the room if you're out there. I saw a couple sweatshirts last night. Yes, there's a couple claps over there. Now led by the marvelous Genevieve King. So EA Create was 3 people in a cubicle, and then became, like, I think at its peak about 1,700 people in 11 locations plus a value web of vendors around the world that was making kind of everything you see and hear on screen in the games. It was bananas. Like, who would do that?
Right.
But it was really that Gen 3 transition that drove it, because lighting needed to actually move to a future state, and we kind of had to take some different approaches to get there. So it was just the adventure of a lifetime to be an entrepreneur, write a one-page document on a problem that you, and I would recommend that to all of you. If you see a problem in your company and you know you can solve it, step up. Like, step up and propose it. The worst that can happen to you is they're going to say no.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So I proposed it, and John Shappert was like, yeah, go do that. That sounds like a very good idea. So that odyssey began. So it was the hardest thing I've ever done, bar none. No question. The most rewarding, too. Yeah.
One of the things I think that people have misconceptions or beliefs about something when you say, hey, we've just created a massive organization that outsources and finds great talent, and some people go, oh, well, that means that you're just going to homogenize everything. It's all going to look the same.
Yep.
It's going to be cookie cutter, and that wasn't the case.
No, that wasn't the case at all. But it's understandable from a game team perspective, though.
Right.
It's understandable. But at the same time, there was just some technical things we needed to leverage our size on. So yeah, I mean, it's easy for game teams to feel that way, and they're also charged with getting it done. So when you take all the maker community and you create an identity around that that's outside the game team, you're delivering the full game area. That's a different model.
Yeah.
And it's not for everyone. And you know what? It was for a particular era, and it served a particular purpose.
Right.
And we're in a different era with different purposes today.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to be in that flexible mindset.
Yeah. I mean.
Yeah.
I think back. I mean, we've all done. Some of you in the crowd who have done time on FIFA.
I did my time.
I know. We used to say, have you been on the 4-letter F word?
The 4-letter F word.
4-letter F word.
Everybody.
I've been in there. But when you realize, I think, not everyone, but I think a lot of people would be surprised how much goes into a product like that.
Oh, it's incredible.
Like how many teams, how many kits, how many away kits, how many third kits, how many, everything. And that's where something at scale that really is needed, because they pump one out every year.
And the substructure, the technical substructure that has to parse all that and actually call all that up and combine it all properly. I mean, it's a miraculous, marvelous thing.
Yeah.
But console games are one thing. I do want to just talk about the shift to PC games for me with Riot. Mm-hmm. I've been in the console world this whole time. I show up at Riot and it's like, I just die playing Valorant. I just die. It's like, here's a keyboard. It's like, what do I do? I'm like a babe in the woods. But it's fun because there's high-end graphics cards, and I'm always like, I'm always kind of got my eye on the computer graphics, let's be honest, even though I'm in a COO role, which I love, by the way. Just love being at Riot.
I remember when we first started the company that I'm with, and we all got these massive laptops, and they weigh like 7 or 8 pounds, and they've got like a blower and a clutch and a Hemi, and they weigh, oh my God, they sound like a hair you're taking off.
Yeah.
But what they can do, and like I kind of say, same with me, I've been in PC and console, but mostly console, and just seeing the level of detail and the level of creativity and finesse that goes into this new PC world. The PC world's always been there, but sometimes when you're in another company, you miss that, right? And you come back out and you go, oh, right? But yeah, totally.
It's a great transition, though.
Yeah. Okay, let's shift gears a little bit again. Tell me about some of the role models and mentors that you have had that maybe have helped you. It could be industry or not.
Yeah, there's so many. I guess I'll talk about Moira Dang. So I don't know if there's people in this room who know Moira. She was definitely one of those generous people when I joined gaming.
Absolutely.
One of those generous people. So I show up in Canada. I'm very California. I sat in meetings and kind of didn't understand the culture, and the film girl thing was happening, and she was just so wonderful. I got so lucky to fall into her orbit. She would situationally coach me after every meeting. Who does that?
Right.
And she would pull me aside and say, loved this, loved this. When he said this, your face did that.
Yep.
She was just the most marvelous coach I've ever had in my life. I owe a lot of, just a massive debt of gratitude to Moira Dang. Another mentor was at DreamWorks. His name is George Merkert, and George was my boss there. He was an executive producer of live-action visual effects films. He's still a producer today. George taught me how to read a script and break it down and figure out how we're going to actually make it happen. I learned everything from George. I owe George a lot, and he's just a wonderful, generous, huge, bigger-than-life character. But he would send me home a script to read. Here you go. Break down the effects, please. And I didn't know how to do that. He took a bet on me. So George, I would say, was a big influence early on, and then Moira was just so generous at EA to really just continue to kind of inspire me and just tell me you're going to be fine in the games business. And I needed to hear that at the time, and she really believed in me. And, if you have a boss who isn't generous, go look for that generous boss as fast as you can.
Yes.
And Moira was just, I was with her 7 years with her as my manager, and I think I really owe a lot of my style and success to her.
Yeah.
So yay, Moira. She's here in Vancouver somewhere.
Yeah.
Her daughter's on FIFA.
No. Oh, of course she is.
Who knows?
We're all on FIFA, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, Moira, I can completely support the Moira thing.
She's wonderful.
Moira is this kind of very special person that, when I was working, she was like overseeing a lot of operations and whatnot. And my team and I would just be typical, me and my team, running around like a bunch of idiots. And she would just very calmly say, Joe.
She's very calm.
That's why we're doing this.
Yes.
Okay? And she was just, 100%.
So Moira was the COO of EA at one point, and just a star.
Yeah.
A star human being and a star operator.
Yep.
And to look up to her as an aspiring COO and to know that I've reached that milestone in my own career, I just owe a lot to Moira. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Are there some areas of game development now that you think are either the most exciting or the most scary? Like, anything that comes.
I just think how fast tech's moving. It's moving very fast. It's always moved fast. I'm in a different role now, so I'm kind of not right up against it the way that I have been for all these years. That makes me anxious a little. You can see my hands because I'm not as close to it. I think that technology is moving rapidly, and it will change how we work, I think, for the better. I don't think we need to fear that there isn't a place for human expression and talent. This is a creative medium. AI is not going to come and do anything in games that we can't harness in a positive direction. I really believe that, and I think the opportunity that it affords us is to focus on what makes it better to be a player, harness that stuff for the power of good, make the workflows everything a creator wants it to be. I think that that's how we have to kind of see it. But it's scary at the same time because it's very overwhelming. Every company is in a very different place on their technical journey. So it's like, how much do you leapfrog? How much do you try and catch yourself up, and what are you catching up to? Those are very individual questions that each company is probably going to have to get introspective and answer at this point. So scary, but I'd say exciting, honestly.
Yeah, I think a lot of people fear the unknown.
Yeah.
But, the world that we live in now, AI is not going to just go away tomorrow because, Congress votes it out, right? It's just not going to happen, right? So it's here. It's how we use it, how we are going to use it going forward.
Yeah.
Pretty sure Skynet won't be next year. I think we'll be okay for a while. But it's all in how you use it, and certainly the art world. I mean, the art world is, I think, the most initially impacted by it right now. But I think it's just a way of harnessing the power of it, because you still need human beings to make that creation, right?
Well, no question, and I think it's not something to be afraid of.
No.
It's something to lean into. It's something to understand more, and I don't think it's something to fear. It's something to get curious about. I think that's going to be the best path forward.
Yeah.
And P.S., it's been here.
Yeah.
This is not a signal of change. That signal of change occurred 20 years ago or more. And in our industry, certainly procedural workflows have been around in visual effects. I saw them for the first time in the 90s when Houdini was introduced at DreamWorks, actually. So in reality, we're just on a spectrum of maybe accelerated change in this area, but it's nothing to be afraid of.
Yeah. Charge into it, knowing because everyone's going to charge into it together.
Charging forward is the only path.
Yeah, totally.
We're going this way.
So let's talk a little bit about diversity, equity, and inclusion. Tell me what that, when I say the DEI word, what does that mean to you, and how does that impact your day-to-day at work?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. So, I mean, DEI is a very personal journey for everyone, I think. Yeah. And I think the best mindset is one of self-acceptance and then allyship towards other people, including white men, PS. And I used to say that a lot at the beginning of sort of the recent wave of DEI spotlight. It's like exclusion is also real for people who maybe have been in a position of privilege. Right. So there's a balance to all of it, I think. Certainly the advice I got in the 90s, in advertising, there was a couple things that happened to me as a young person, and this very senior female executive gave me coaching that today I'm sure she wouldn't give me. You know, so I think it's a lifelong journey with how you're going to interact with your own identity, what companies are doing or not doing. I think everyone is going to have to find their own way on what fits for them. I did and am proud of standing up the women's ERG at EA called Women's Ultimate Team with Waylon Tong, who's just another totally inspirational woman. She's a SVP of Finance at EA down in Redwood Shores. She and I just went on kind of a journey with that. We really wanted to advocate for women. We did a women's study at EA to just really understand how are women feeling. How can we make this a better place for women to grow their careers? At Riot, it's been nothing but supportive. Been there a year and a half. There's a very strong identity that they call them RIGs, Riot Interest Groups, that the RIGs have there. And I do think every company's kind of leaned into it in their own way. As a woman myself and as a kind of a Gen Xer coming out on the age side of things, I've seen the spectrum for sure. I've been in the workplace when it just wasn't, DEI was not a word. Right. It just was not. And so it's kind of refreshing to see how much we're embracing everybody's identities now. Well, not perfect, of course, long way to go, but it's nice to see.
I remember the Women's Ultimate group.
Yeah. Team, Joe.
Team. Well, this is the funny story because when I went to California, I was working at Maxis. Yeah. And I was asked to be an ambassador for the Women's Ultimate Team. And this is how out of touch I was.
I mean, could you see a better ambassador? I think the answer is no.
Yeah. Yeah. And I literally was questioning, said, why do you want me on the Ultimate Team? I don't even like Frisbee. Literally, I'm not trying to make a joke. Frisbee. I thought it was the Ultimate Team. And they went, no, it's more than that. And I had to look into it.
Thankfully.
Yeah, thankfully I figured that part out. But as recent as this summer, I went to the UK for sumo, and I actually asked if I could give a talk. And I very glibly shot out a line saying, "This is what I wanted to call. I'm gonna be funny." And so I sent a line out what I thought the talk should be called. Not only did they approve it, they went with it, and they published it within the studio.
Oh boy!
And my talk was called "Old White Guy Talks About Women in the Workplace." And
fantastic! I would pay to see that.
But you know what? It was really awesome, and we've had such an easy ride, white guys. Us, guys like me have had a super easy ride, and we were blind to so many things. And it's learning and going, wow, I really did used to be like that or do that.
I mean, the awareness is great. I think allyship is a huge role that we can all play. I also think that, it takes courage too. Yep. To normalize saying to someone, hey, maybe next time you could say it a different way or whatever it is. It takes a lot of courage to be that person. And so I think that's the courage we all have to muster, regardless of what our identity orientations are,
Yep.
is that courage, right? The courage to just sort of really let your freak flag fly, be yourself.
Yep.
Professional at all times, of course, but
Sure.
be yourself. And I also think the bar can't change. Like, we're all super talented individuals in this industry. And
Yep.
so keep your bar high, you know?
Yeah.
That's the other aspect of it.
And you're still making video games or whatever you're
all
making.
making
Still
games,
making
yeah.
products. It's still a job and whatnot, right?
Of
And I think that's
course.
the one thing that we discovered is on the journey. It's like we stand for a lot of things, we support a lot of things, we don't talk about a lot of things, but at the end of the day, you still have to get the job done. And they should not be separate. They should just flow.
Yes, and I think, like, one thing I love about Riot is the mission about making it better to be a player.
Yes.
At the end of the day, this entire room of people, the companies we work for, if you happen to be a geodiverse team member or a partner in this room, we are all doing it for the players. That's who we're doing this for.
Yeah.
We're
and
not
we're
doing
players
it for
too.
ourselves, and we're players too. It's players for players. We're not doing this for ourselves. We're doing
Right.
this for the people who love what we're giving them out into the world. And so
Yeah.
we have to remember that too. I mean, DEI is hugely important at work. There is no question.
Yeah.
But we also have to keep our eye on the players as well.
Yeah. I'm going to call out that we are crushing our pace. Are we not crushing our pace?
We are. There's a little clock down here.
We have a little clock that's telling us when we're talking too long and what's going on, and we are crushing it. Right
Chris knew this would occur, though.
Yeah, yep. One final question before we turn it around to let people ask you some questions.
Yeah.
Give us your outlook on external development for the games industry. What are you seeing?
I think we've sort of hinted at it throughout this chat. I really think leaning into technology, don't be afraid of it. That's the frontier that if I were an external developer who's increasingly a huge part of the game team, think about within your own company how all of this tech affects what you do. And jump into it as fast and hard as you can, and make yourselves as creative and efficient as you can, and you'll just continue to be phenomenal partners. So I think the future of external development, the scale is not going away. Players are expecting more and more and more and more, and we have to keep up with that. And so that means that we all have to figure out what some really great systems look like to do that.
Great.
So I think the future of external development gets bigger, not smaller.
Yeah.
Yeah, truly.
I think it's important too that for people that are looking, that have an external development service that they offer, when I get asked, people say, what should I do? And I'd always say the same thing. Do some research on the company you're about to ask to do business with.
For sure.
Find out what they do, right? You know, if I get someone that says, Joe, we're going to increase your retention rate for the game that we don't know that you're making, I'm probably not going to call you back.
Probably not.
But do a little bit of research and talk about it. So.
Agreed. Yeah.
All right. Well, the red flashing light now means stop talking. Me anyway. We are going to get that cool microphone. Where's the cool microphone? So we have this really cool microphone here. You may have seen it from last year. This is the XDS
It's very
throwable
fancy.
microphone. Now here's a pro tip. Don't address it like this. It is not, Shakespeare thing. There's a microphone that has a speaker right in this giant black circle. And then if you have a question for Molly, just speak right into the thing, and it'll hear you. And then when you're done, you get to throw it as hard as you want to the next
Oh my
person.
God.
And it won't hurt them. Well, maybe if the antenna goes up your nose.
It might.
Other than that,
It might hurt you. It might hurt you.
Yeah, exactly. So I can't really see too much. I can just kind of see some glare. But is there anybody that has a question that would like to ask Molly? All right. Here comes the underhanded lob. I'm going to try and not hit one of those nice lights. Oh. Well, it went off
Ouch.
someone's head, and
Okay, ouch.
but see, you didn't get hurt, did you? You signed a waiver anyway. Maybe tell us what your name is and what your question is, please.
Sure. I'm Fitzgerald Lewis from the XDI team. So you mentioned kind of innovating at EA, and
Yeah.
I was curious what strategies you found effective to push against resistance and change over the years.
Just kind of going for it. I think a well-backed strategy is important. So when you have somewhere you want to go or an idea you want to push, you always do need to come with and EA is good at this, at the facts and the data to kind of support what you're pitching. Make your pitch compelling. You've got to get people excited. You've got to get people excited about what you're embarking on. And if they're not excited about it, then the resistance is higher. So I would say only go after the things that really can stir hearts and minds in your team, because you need your team kind of really energized, and then go with the facts. Go with the facts and have a well-backed case. And I think you'll just feel confident that way too. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Where have we got? Oh, you think you can do the Hail Mary that far?
That's pretty far.
You may need to pass the potato down.
He's going to go for it.
Oh,
Ooh,
Kaifas with a solid catch.
that was pretty good. Nice.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Vanessa. I'm with Naughty Dog today, but I was once with EA Create, and it was definitely one of the most formative experiences I've had in my career. So
Yay.
thank you for setting those stones for all of us.
Of course.
And, I'm interested in understanding a little better how, in the process of creating an outsource environment for your teams, like how did you manage to embed outsource into the creative flow of your teams?
With really great partners that are in this room, there's a lot of companies in this room I could name, but I want to call out Gilles Langevin. I'm not sure if he's in the room today, but really early on, Gilles was willing to just be really flexible. He sent people to embed with us in Canada. He just sent people. And it helped people get in the context. And that's an investment that you shouldn't underestimate when you're actually kicking off a creative process. Something about the energy of people being together is hugely, hugely beneficial. You've got to get everybody focused on the creative end state together. And then when you redistribute and you get into your geodiverse configuration to sort of hit production and do it together, you're aiming at the same player, same end game, same creative goals. So I would say don't underestimate face time. Don't underestimate that part of it. And then just all the operational preparation, and support your creative partners. Like inside your game team, make sure they're ready, make sure they're organized. That's kind of our job. We're like border collies dressed as, human beings. You've got to corral all your creatives to be really clear about what they're trying to achieve, unless you've got the money to, be in a more fluid, kind of figure it out as you go with a vendor, which on the client side or on the game team side, not the best. I mean, you don't want to be kind of burning all your resources, and on the vendor side can be quite frustrating if a game team isn't communicative and ready. So invest up front. Yeah, that's what I'd say. Pretty basic answer, but.
Do you ever watch little kids playing soccer? Right? They all chase the ball.
That's a great analogy.
Right? And it's like, okay, play your position. And I think
but some of them are like looking at the sky and like
there's
running.
YouTube videos all over the place. They're like, oh my God, they're looking around. It's not like unlike a team, right?
You don't want to be the kid running over to the.
I know. Who's that? It's not my son.
Like aimlessly, and the ball's over there. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right, who have we got next? Sold.
It's very auction. Somebody
there's one in the back there. Yeah, can you do there you go.
Hi, I'm Christy from Snowden. I have a casual question. What rank are you in Valorant?
Oh, my goodness. So, there is no rank in Valorant, okay? Let's just be really honest that I am horrible at Valorant. So I've been there a year and a half. Before I joined the company, it was like, well, I'm just gonna boot up the PC games and get into this. I just die endlessly in Valorant.
Same.
Yeah, same. But I can also say Valorant is one of the most inspiring franchises I have ever witnessed. Anna Donnellan, who leads that team, is a very inspirational leader, and the way that they just understand their player, they're in love with their player. The esports events are just, it's the most inspiring thing I'm almost speechless. those esports events are some of the most inspiring live things I have ever attended in my entire life. The energy, the fandom, it's really, really insane. So if you haven't played Valorant, you should, and you be prepared to die.
A lot.
Yeah, a lot. But it's a phenomenon around the world. It's really captured the hearts and minds of all ages. It's just a juggernaut that I think is endless in terms of its possibilities. So big plug for the Valve team, really talented developers. Yeah, but I suck at Valorant.
Me too.
So do I.
Yeah.
On the end. Come on, you can do it. Yeah!
Well done.
Success.
Rugby player right there.
Hi, Molly.
Hi.
Thank you so much for doing this for us today.
course.
You're amazing, and Joe as well. Softball question for you. So AI is a huge topic this week.
Softball, comma,
Yeah.
AI. Okay.
And there's some presentations on AI this week
Yeah.
and some table topics. And so I'm just wondering what's on the horizon for you and Riot when it comes to the emergence of AI, prospective pitfalls or what you're really looking forward to.
My goodness. And that was like a softball? We're going with a softball on that? Okay. Gosh, I'm not at liberty to sort of just like expose everything Riot's thinking. So I just want to sort of lead with that. But like everyone else, there's a major role for AI to be playing. And we are looking deeply at what that means at Riot. And also what I mentioned before, this isn't new necessarily. So it's more about, it's becoming kind of a more intense focus area. So for Riot, we're looking at a lot of things, probably 5 or 6 major initiatives in this area. I'm not at liberty to share what those are. Some of them are really focused on systems, some are focused on the player, some are focused on the maker community. Just like everyone else, we're looking at all the categories. It was obtuse enough, I think. But yes, it's a major conversation piece inside the company, without a doubt.
I mean, AI is not, it's been around, right? Like as a game
has.
programmer, there's AI in every game. It's just getting kind of a weird rap because people are cheating on resumes now.
Yeah.
And they could use ChatGPT and then start publishing their own thing and like, oh, I'm so smart, and then realize that everyone's doing it, and then they can start to see that this sounds robotic.
I think you and I should do it.
Yeah.
I think we should send each other the resume that would get generated on. We'll publish that to you guys.
Yeah, we'll publish our collective resumes on ChatGPT and
Yeah.
see how many noses my picture ends up with.
See what kind of crazy stuff they say.
Yeah. All right, do we have anybody else?
It's bright light.
It is bright. All right. Well, without dragging people to ask a question they're really not comfortable asking, you can ask Molly anything at any time.
This is true.
Please join me in thanking Molly Mason-Boule for this conversation.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we're going to take a short break. We'll be back at 11 o'clock. With David Sanderson, and he's going to be here to talk about efficiency is everything, what the airline industry can teach us about external development strategy. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Enjoy your day.
Bye-bye.